Hi, okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about comparing our genetic code on part 4 for the Island Biogeography Lab. I've gotten a few questions about it, and so hopefully we'll go through and do a few examples together, and then that way you guys can have a better idea of what we're asking for. So if we scroll down here, you can see that we have this table we're trying to fill out, table 2. So what we're comparing here is the differences in nucleotides or base pairs between two different species of lizards. So in this case, we're comparing G. stellini and G. atlantica. Okay, and we notice that it's already filled in here for us. We have 36 base pairs, and that is differences in base pairs, not base pairs that are similar. It's different base pairs. Same thing with G. atlantica and G. galati on the Palma Island. We have 25 differences in base pairs. Now we're going to go through and fill out this more spaces of this table here, but you'll be required to fill out the rest of it. But keep in mind, the larger the number of differences in base pairs indicate that they are more genetically distant than some two lizard species that only have 25 base pairs in common. For example, the G. stellini and the G. atlantica here are more distantly related than the G. atlantica and the G. galati palma. They are more closely related because they only differ in 25 base pairs. So let's go through and compare G. stellini and G. galati on the Palma Island. So that's what this Palma is here. So the Palma indicates that that's the G. galati species that lives on the Palma Island. So let's scroll up to our nucleotide base pairs here, our genetic code. So remember, we're comparing stellini and galati on the Palma Island. So this is our Palma Island lizard right here. It's indicated by the P in parentheses. So our G. stellini is our number 1 lizard. So all of the rows here of 1 are G. stellini. That's all genetic code for G. stellini. You can see there's row 1A, row 1B. If you continue onward, it's row 1C and row 1D. Those are all the stellini lizard genetic code. Now if you look up here, also you could see the row 3. Row 3 is G. galati from the Palma Island. So all of that row, all of 3B row, all of 3C row, and all of 3D row is all G. galati on the Palma Island. That's their entire sequence, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to compare G. stellini and G. galati on the Palma Island to see how many differences in base pairs we have. So we have the full code written out for G. stellini, and then we don't have the full code written out for any of the other lizards, and that's because it's pretty difficult to read it and find the differences. The dots just indicate that it is exactly the same as the G. stellini code here. So we're going to go through and see if we can find any differences. So we can see that the here is all going to be the same as this TCACT. So this is also TCACT. So we're going to continue along until we find a difference. And we can see our first difference is here, where we have a base pair nucleotide of T, and here we have a C. So that's our first difference. So we're going to count that as 1. So we're going to continue onwards. Here we have number 2 that is different. So that's our second base pair difference. So let's continue onwards and finish counting them all out. Here's number 3. Here's number 4. Here's number 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. So we only have 9 on that row. So now we're going to move down to the next row and continue along. Up here's one that's different. There's C. So that's 10. Then this is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 18 differences so far. Let's continue. 19. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41 differences in the base pair nucleotides. So we're going to scroll back down. And remember, we were comparing G. stellini and G. galadi on the Palma Islands. So these two here. So in this box right here is where you're going to put 41 differences in base pairs. So that's 41 different nucleotides. So that is far more distantly related than G. atlantica and G. stellini, which is 36. So G. galadi Palma and G. stellini are more distantly related. So let's do one more. Let's do G. atlantica over here. Go down, and in this box, we're comparing it with G. galadi on the North Tenerife Island. So it's going to stand for NT when we look at it. So we're comparing the North Tenerife Island and the galadi lizard and the G. atlantica lizard. So we're going to go through and count those base pairs and see how many differences we have there. So we'll scroll back up and we're going to look at our code again. Okay. So now remember, the first time we used stellini and they had their code all written out, but this time we're going to use G. atlantica, which is on row 2, and we're going to use G. galadi NT, and that's going to be on row 4. So we're going to compare this 2 row here that I've had highlighted with this 4th row. So we're going to go through and see if there's any differences, and if there are, we're going to count how many there are. So the dot dot dots indicate that they are exactly the same. So let's go through and count. So here's our first letter. This T for all these species is different than a stellini, but they're still the same. 2 and 4 lizard, the atlantica and the galadi NT are the same. So they're both T. So we're not gonna count that one. Same thing here. We're not gonna count that one either. So let's continue onward. We have another similar one. Oh, here's our first difference. So we have a G right here on our galadi NT, and we have an A right here for our atlantica. So that's difference number 1. So 1, and we have our second difference here. So that's 2. So far, 2 differences. Okay, so let's go down to the next row. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 differences so far. Let's keep going. 11, 12, 13. 13 differences, and our last row, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Ooh, I think that was 19 right here. 20, 21, 22, 23 differences. So we would scroll back down here, and G. atlantica and G. galadi on the NT island would have 23 different base pair nucleotides. So they are very closely related so far compared to the numbers we already have. We had 41 right here, and we had 23 over here. So far they're the most closely related. So that's how you would fill out this table. So if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to help you.